This episode is brought to you by Mortgage Workflow Partners and the Mastering Encompass series, both for users as well as administrators. You can find out all the information about it over at masterengencompass.com. Also, if you'd like to check out what we're doing on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe to the channel using the @MasteringEncompass handle. And make sure you stay up to date on all the information, not just with podcasts, but also video content that we bring to you as often as possible. Now let's get on to the episode. Hey gang, Larry Bailey, Mortgage Workflow Partners. We are gathered up today. It is October 24th. That Halloween pumpkin, I was told, has to change to a turkey. So thanks everybody for showing up after Halloween, of course. So it's Tuesday at 4:00 p.m. Eastern. I know what day it is. Meet today, and then Thursday at 1 o'clock. We talk about all things that are important to the community. Love to answer questions first. We do have a topic today. Selling an Encompass like a master. For those that don't know, if you've never heard me say it like a bajillion times, I spent the first 20 years of my career in mortgage banking, and then the last 12 years of my career, all involved in technology. And one of the things that, thanks, Sean, appreciate it. One of the things that I really focus on is how things are supposed to work. And I had the luxury of learning how to sell mortgages off a thermal fax machine with rates that came in once a day through the fax machine. We had telephones. It was the beginning of the cell phone era, but certainly did not have the internet, certainly did not have websites. And we had Contour at the time, I think was the best thing. Byte was obviously in existence. I'm sorry, not Byte, pardon me. Point was obviously in existence. And here we are today, 2023. And, all of these things encompass. One of the things that I know I work with clients all the time about is on the sales team. Had another demo today of a piece of technology that is meant to help modernize the CRM experience because of how you can organize a screen, you can click to dial, or you can click to text, and it's all organized in some other platform outside of Encompass. And that's supposed to help you do better. To which I said to the sales rep, I said, well, how much of this information goes back into Encompass? And his quick answer was none. So I'm like, my whole thing is companies are spending, in some cases, millions of dollars a year on a platform that is under-leveraged, underutilized, and I'm going to continue to do something about it. I think this is a conversation that everybody needs to know. I think it's important for admins to also understand because you're probably, involved in some conversations about how can Encompass do more. You're probably also the ones who are constantly being told, hey, we just bought this piece of software, go plug it in and make it work. To which you're looking at it going, we already have this. Like, why did we go get this other piece of software, right? That's never happened. So I'm curious from the sales perspective, keep in mind that, there's folks on here that are using Blend, right? So the Blend folks, give yourself a hand. For the folks that are using Simple Nexus, give yourselves a hand, or maybe using Big POS. And these are all platforms that are meant to typically help the sales process. So I want to talk more about it in our time today. But before we do that, it is meant to be a collaborative conversation. Does anybody have any problems that they want to bring up? Anything that's happened that from the 23.3 is a success story or is a lesson learned story that I want to share. Kayla, you guys are fairly new into Encompass. I'd love to hear your feedback. You've been on your own now for a little while. So I'd love to hear your feedback on how things are going for you. If you don't mind sharing, I'm sure others would too. And we'll have this as an open conversation. Feel free to update the chat. And for those that are here virtually listening to this in the future sometime, please get over to the community and have an open conversation about what's happening. Again, I see things from my perspective, and I want to share this information with you, but it's always good to always hear what's happening in your world too, if you want to talk about it. So Kayla says we're still adjusting some LOs more than others. Yeah, and it's hard. Listen, it's really hard change. Change sucks. It sucks. It sucks. It sucks. And one of the things that happens in Encompass is, especially nowadays, as companies are changing and people are coming and going, it's like, yeah, but my Encompass experience used to be this over at my other company, or my friend works over there and they have that. Why can't we have that? It looks so much better. So I want to speak to some of those things. Candace says you're still pushing hard for big POS, especially as your contract is going up 45%. I'm going to speak to that, Candace. I'm going to speak to, the idea of not the cost thing. I mean, there's nothing I can say about that, but the idea of what is the big POS solving for, just like what is Simple Nexus solving for, and specifically in the sales context. Because big POS and these others, they solve for bigger picture items. Yeah, I can tell you all about Blend. Yeah, there's a lot of Blend users on here. I know Kayla, you guys still having trouble with your integration experience. Jolene's a great Blend user. We're working together on a big project, and Blend has been they've been something that's needed to be resolved. So yeah, the integration, if it works, it works well. So listen, if you're watching this online on a replay, if you're seeing this on socials, go ahead and get over to mortgage.community to see the entire replay and all the stuff that I'm going to show you on how to sell like a master using standard input forms, using Encompass on the web, using opportunities, and then also using click to dial and click to SMS. So there you go. So let's get into it. So I'm going to bring this over and I'm going to talk about best practice as a salesperson. Kayla, this is really meant for probably your team if they're struggling, or anybody else if they're struggling. I'm going to go ahead and share screen, share entire window. So we are in my test environment, so we have no chance of anybody's information getting out there. And so as much as I can say that I've been working in Encompass for 15 years, it's remarkable how much we try to customize Encompass because we're trying to listen to users who are trying to do things quicker, faster, better. And I want to speak to that. So Kayla just said, yeah, Kayla, connect with Candace, Kayla, and also connect with Jolene. Guys chat directly, privately, whatever. Just connect with them and ask questions. So Kayla says, hey, yeah, I just think that since we have clerical errors for some LOs with some of the important info, it breaks the integration when we try to fix it. Yeah. Yeah, unfortunately, data in, if it's garbage, you're going to get data out that's garbage. So yeah, it's a tough one, Kayla. So on screen, we've got the original borrower summary origination. This is the standard out of the box, and you might not even be using this anymore as a company. Ironically, there's a large client that I'm just started working with, and they are going back to using the standard borrower summary origination because they're tired of always having to maintenance all the different fields. And as Angie says in chat, they have a separate customized quick app that we have to keep adding things to. And, I can tell you this, the idea of this form that's on screen is not meant to facilitate a conversation with a borrower. And that's where it gets hard with sales teams. Sales teams, if you've never sold, sales is an ongoing conversation, and you have to be a performer. And when you're a performer, you have to not have breaks in your flow. So if I'm talking to the coding workshop here, this borrower coding workshop, and I've said, I've started talking about stuff, and they're like, well, what would that cost? And then they're like, okay, well, in order to get that answer, I have to go basically to the URLA lender. And then I have to scroll down and I have to plug in a loan amount and an interest rate. And then I have to answer this stuff. And they're like, okay, well, how much cash would that cost? Okay, well, now I have to go over to the 2015 itemization is probably the quickest way. And I have to wait for that to load. And then I have to scroll down to the bottom. Or I could go to the URLA lender And I could go down to the bottom of here and do this. Depends on what your flow is, depends on what you have access to. And the idea of clicking around to different places is what you'll always hear about. And so what I usually try to guide sales teams on is, how do I have an ongoing conversation with somebody to get basic information to know what the heck they want to do. And there's three basic ways to do it. Literally back of the napkin, on a piece of paper on the desk. You'll find a lot of folks that do that throughout the mortgage industry. It's just a habit, and it's not taught, but it's what we all do. I've got notebooks of these things laying around, but it doesn't really help you with calculations. If I want to go get pricing, I have to have something in Encompass. If I want to figure out closing costs, especially if it includes for things like recording or transfer taxes, things like that, it's got to be in Encompass. So the challenge is, how do I do it quickly? And so what a lot of folks will do, loan officers in particular, they'll create shell files, and they'll use those shell files, whether it's in Encompass, or they'll use shell files in like Optimal Blue, or maybe even EPPS. And they'll use those shell files to have quick conversations to determine what the borrower might be interested in based upon some general assumptions. So what happens from that, if they're doing it on the web, is nothing's in Encompass, and loan scenarios especially, right, Candace? So up to date, what we will do as administrators is we'll create these summary forms that allow for loan officers, in particular for salespeople, to be able to go in and have a sandbox of sorts to quickly punch in things like loan amount, interest rate, go get pricing, run credit if you're doing a soft pull, things like that. And so I didn't put it up on screen for today, but I've shown it in the past where there's different summary forms or different workbenches that summarize parts of Encompass. And the trickiness to this answer is getting it into a visualized format that actually works and is also scalable as ICE continues to update Encompass. So one of the more recent updates that we see on screen is preferred contact method. And if we say, listen, they prefer to be contacted by cell, but they only want to be contacted Thursday afternoon, that kind of a thing. And I don't have a phone number in here, which is why that box isn't there. So if they, do they accept text SMS? Now, the reason why this kind of an update is important is because you can leverage these kinds of things to do automated outbound texting. Now, all of this thing is important because if you're using a POS, if you're doing your work in Encompass for basic stuff, but then you're leveraging, again, whether it's Simple Nexus or Blend or the big POS, the idea of bidirectional synchronization is important because we want to make sure that from a compliance perspective, all the information's in here. That's the idea. All the notes are in here. So if a manager wants to see what's going on, or if Johnny Loan Officer goes away and Jane Loan Officer comes in, or the president gets a lawsuit handed to them, everything's got to be in Encompass. It's got to be, no exception. And so to date, the biggest solution that's been out there has been customized input forms, that kind of a thing. So I want to show something different. I want to show you something a little bit more progressive, something that you all have, you don't have to pay anything extra for, and some other methodologies when it comes to sales. So one of the things that you can do is, did it log me out? You son of a gun, it logged me out. So one of the things you can do, I'll bring it over on the screen in 1 second. Sorry, gang. Is it going to ping me? Oh, I got to ping it. Hang on, I got to hit the ping. You got to hit the ping. So we'll bring this over here. So one of the things that you've seen me talk about before as a group in the community is using Encompass on the web. So this thing right here that I'm going to show you isn't that, it's actually opportunities. So what is an opportunity? Honestly, it's what I would always use as a salesperson. 100% right now. And so I'm going to go into this dude, Larry Bailey, and I can see right away that I've got basic personal information within Encompass. So even though it's not a loan file, it's in Encompass. Keep that in the back of your mind. Within here, I can go and update what their income is. I can update what their liabilities are, what they tell me over the phone. I can update what their assets are. Gang, this is all scratchpad stuff. This is what literally your sales team would write down on a piece of paper. How do I know that? Because I did it. I did it for 20 years. One of the things that you then can do when you have that is you can go run a comparison, a sales comparison, or scenario comparison, and you can pick up to actually 10 of these guys. And so how you got to that was going to encompass.ice.com, Angie. And once you get to there, you'll log in with your Encompass credentials, provided that you've enabled web access in your Encompass settings, you can get to where we are now. As a super admin, you'll come to the admin spot. So just go ahead and click on opportunities. Now I'm going to show you, you're welcome. I'm going to show you how to deal with opportunities in a minute. But the reason why I want to show this to you on screen was because you don't have anything else like this available in Blend or in Simple Nexus or in Big POS, because that's not what it's made for. Those platforms are made for communication and document collection. That's it. It's not made for sales. It's a point of sale. It's not a CRM. Encompass is also not a CRM, so don't let that fool you. But the idea is that if I'm talking to a borrower about options, I want to be able to explore those options in a very quick way so I can figure out what's going on. And if I'm talking to a borrower, I'm going to go back into the beginning. I can actually create an opportunity. So if I go to the pipeline and I'm going to, let's go down over here. That's not what I want. Hang on, guys. Let me take this off screen one quick second. And we're going to get over into loan folder of tests training. There we go. That's more like it. So if we come over here, if I'm talking to Andy America, and I'm working with Andy America on their loan, this is what you're normally used to seeing. And a lot of folks are like, ick, I don't like this whole thing, right? I don't want to go in here. That's fine. You can click these three, but the three dots, the ellipse. You can create an opportunity from this loan file. So this allows your sales team for that sandbox that you've been hearing about forever and ever and ever. It throws in all their information from the loan file, if that's where you want to start from, brings in everything that they're doing, and answer a question if it's missing. Purpose over here is missing. No, Candace, you can create an opportunity even if you're not using Consumer Connect. Now, how do you manage it? In other words, how do you communicate with a borrower? You're not going to use Consumer Connect. I don't have that exact answer, but opportunities are not disabled, if that's what you mean. So cash out purpose, hit next. Select your products, right? Conventional, you can select conventional FHA maybe, that's another one. Target rate, don't we always wish it was 4.875. Veteran status, regular loan term, 30-year fixed. All right, get pricing. So assuming this works, looks like it's going to get VA, conventional VA 30-year fixed. I don't know if I selected FHA or not, but it's going to give you all your stuff, and you want to sort it by interest rate, sort it by interest rate. So you can come in here and you can select different options. So there's a VA, and we'll just do these others. And so when you have these when you have these scenarios added to your opportunity, you can go in and you can clearly see what's happening. The reason why I'm showing this to you, gang, is not to sell you on anything in particular. It's just to show you that when you're in Encompass, you're already paying for things that you might not realize. It's the whole point of me doing these series with you in the community, is because I find that when companies are struggling with ways to move their sales team, which is what this conversation is all about, forward, instead of having to go out to get something else, just look at what you already have, exploit what you already have. And so it'll let you know if information is needed. You can go over and click check eligibility, and you can fill in what's not checked off green. And when you're done, you can go back over into your opportunities, and you can see that new one was just created for Andy America. So far, again, I'm paying attention to the chat. If anybody has any questions, let me know. You do have to go into admin, and you do have to go into opportunity setup, and you do have to address this information. So affordability management, do you want to turn that on or not? For conventional FHA, VA, or USDA. Eligibility letters. You might be used to calling these pre-approval letters. In this, it's an opportunity. So are you eligible for the opportunity? It gets you away from the whole conversation of pre-approvals, especially with what's going on now with CFPB and regulators on is the pre-approval, did you run AUS findings? Did you not? Was it a credit decision? Was it not? So all the crap that goes out for reporting goes away because it's just an opportunity that you're exploring. And here's an eligibility letter that you can create. And then lastly, the email templates that you're using to go out. You can customize these email templates to, again, have the eligibility letters attached. And so here's where, who was asking about Consumer Connect? Candace. So here's where it kind of falls apart, right? So you can do your eligibility letter. You can do your scenario comparison letter. You can do your invitation to apply. And you can do your reminders to apply. And then you can copy those over. So as a salesperson, which is what this whole conversation was about, I'm going into a loan file and I'm going into basic information. And then when I go to interview, it's part 1 and I'm filling in the information. I go to part 2 and I fill in the information. I'm not looking for details. I'm looking for basic information that I would need if I'm going to be running AUS. I go to part 3 and then I go to part 4. And the last thing I go to is the lender. Now, some people will go to itemization. Others won't. It depends if you've automated your fees, right? So if you've automated your fees or you've automated other parts, whether it's DDM rules for your closing costs, everybody's a little bit different. But the reality is, by the time as a loan officer, by the time I get to my lender, I know that I'm quoting this borrower what their total payment is. I know that I'm quoting what their cash to from is. And I know if I'm moving forward or not. And I can get through this conversation with the borrower in 5 minutes, like legit. And I know anybody who's selling out there, they might scoff at that because they're like, no way, you can't do that. And to which I would say, yeah, let's go. I'll give you a race. And it's because, I've been doing it a very long time in very difficult circumstances when it comes to technology. So part of what I want you to understand as an admin team is if you're getting pushback from your sales team, first of all, I encourage them to come to these meetings and let's talk about it. Let's talk about it openly. These meetings are not meant for just administrators. This whole community is not just meant for administrators, but it's kind of defaulted that way because of obviously the other communities I've created. But that's not what Mortgage.community is about. It's really about moving us all forward and including everybody. So if you have sales teams that are, or anybody for that matter, check the rest of our agenda. We've got processing, underwriting, closing, and among other things. And I've interlaced settings conversations with operational conversations, A, to get the conversations out there, but B, just to try to get other people into these meetings besides administrators. So is anybody on the call actually selling, like for their job? Are you responsible for originating a loan? Because I'd love to hear from you if you are, or if you're, if you disagree. Like let's talk about if I'm completely off base. If you think, no way, Larry, this is not something people do, because I can show you. I can talk through it and let's explore those points. That's kind of what I'm really good at is talking through problems and coming up with a solution that works for you, for what's going on. So while Candace is typing, and I'm assuming nobody else is on here, I would encourage you to take this link as we post it. Hopefully it'll be up today, maybe tomorrow. But give it to your sales team, give it to your sales managers. And again, when it comes to how you're leveraging point of sale systems, I think that's fine. I meant to show you this. Damn it! I meant to show you this on the web. When you're using this, if you go into, I want to show you something really cool. If you go into your pipeline, which hopefully it's still, oh, hang on, I got to go put it over in testing. Stupid Encompass. Didn't save my, I didn't save my thing. So let me go over to training. So come over into a file. Now I happen to have voice over IP enabled. So what does that mean? That means when I go into a borrower in here, borrower information, I can actually, I'm using Chrome. I can actually go in here and I can highlight that number, right mouse click, and I can click to call or click to text. You can't do that in desktop. So there's a little bit of a tease if you're again and you're in sales and you want to like do something really quick, clicking is obviously easier than dialing, punching in numbers, and you don't have to. And this is certainly something that's typically available in POS platforms. But as a sales team, you need to be able to click to dial. John, thank you very much. So John wrote a plugin. And what's the voice over IP service that you connected that plugin to, John? I'm just curious. Zoom phone. Okay, cool. So yeah, so if you're friends with John and you can, get him to hook you up with his plugin, maybe he will. But click to dial is everything. My only challenge with Zoom, so if that works for you, great. I'm not sure how that's connected into your complete technology platform to record phone calls if needed. That's my only thing is that connected, John? So is your whole company wrapped in Zoom? So everything's monitored, that kind of thing for compliance? I'm just curious. Because that's the only other thing that I want to make sure of is that, so everybody's different. I do a lot of work with banks that actually have to track phone calls and texts and things like that. So awesome stuff, John. Congratulations on building that. But yeah, if you can click the dial or click the SMS, it's a game changer. Especially for some of the teams I help integrate their VoIP into their Teams platform, and that also integrates into their Encompass experience. That way, everything's kind of consolidated and there's seamless handoff between sales to operations. But that's another story. Candace, you said earlier, your teams are definitely not doing it that way. They start with lender page and summary before anything else. I would say, let's give it a different look. Summary is great for borrower's name and contact information. And then what I usually do from there, I'm like, okay, listen, do we need to talk about rates first? Or do we need to talk about qualifying first? What are we talking about? They want the credit button. Yeah, they want to order credit, right? So they'll go name, social, date of birth, and then they want to make sure they can go and order credit for a soft, I guess, right? They want to figure out what the soft pull is first. Yep. So they'll get the soft pull, they'll import liabilities. Oh, they want a hard pull? Okay. So they want a hard pull to order liabilities or order credit and then import liabilities. And then from there, again, I would go straight into part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4. And then again, depending on what you have for your itemization fees, either there or go into lender for the, for the show, right? For the end show, which is what's it going to cost me a month? Sorry. What's it going to cost me a month? And then what's it going to cost me out of my pocket? That's all borrowers care about. What's it cost? Is it a good deal? So I'd love to hear feedback from whether you're watching this on replay or even after today. I'd love to hear feedback from your teams on if I'm completely off my rocker or if you're going to take anything away from this that hopefully has made an improvement for you. That's the goal. And that's all I got for today. Would love to reorganize them. Candace, get them on a call here. We can do this. And same thing with you, Kayla. I know we've talked about it. So I'm always up for helping everybody, guys. And if we need like a special call one day for just the sales team, that's not a Tuesday, Thursday kind of a thing, even if it's for a general conversation with your company, just call me, let me know. Be glad to help out. I've always said if the admin thing doesn't work out, I can always go back into sales. So far it's still working out for me. So here I am. You guys are awesome for always showing up. I thank you for you guys coming and certainly, again, I always have topics prepared because it's like pulling teeth, getting everybody to talk. But certainly, if there's topics you want me to cover, just say something. And if you have anything you want to present, that too. So everybody have a great day. I try to keep these at 30 minutes. So there you go. Have a great one and productive end of month. Good luck to everybody. Keep up the great work. See you Thursday. Bye for now.